everybody. Welcome to another episode of Lein in the Library, though we have had to change locations today. So today it's just Lein in the regular education classroom. And today, strap in because it's about to get intense today. We are going to learn about a topic that is a little bit heavy. So you might want to get the kids away from the speakers, maybe change the podcast to something else, because today we're going to talk about Ted Bundy, the serial killer, with our personal expert on the topic, Emily. Welcome to the podcast, Emily.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome, thank you. So tell us a bit about yourself and how you came to be interested in such a scary topic.
I'm 16. I go to Powell High School, and I've always been interested ever since I was little. I have witnessed a murder myself when I was about 5.
Oh, wow.
So I've always just wondered about it, connected to it.
Wow. So you said you were 5 and you actually witnessed a murder.
Yes.
Did you understand what was happening at that time?
No.
So you probably spent some time processing that as you've gotten older. Okay. And so the topic of this is kind of obviously interested you as you try to figure out what the heck happened to you or around you. So why serial killers? Why Ted Bundy?
Just always found interest into it.
Okay. Well, why don't we dig into that topic then? Tell us a bit about Mr. Ted and all the wonderful things he did.
He was born on November 24th, 1946. He was a rapist, a kidnapper, a murderer, the basics.
The basics of
The basics.
nasty serial killing stuff.
Yes.
Okay. So he was born in 46, rapist, murderer. Okay. How did he get started?
He's had crazy life when he was young. His family's all messed up. There's a lot of incest in it. His sister's his mom, and his grandfather's his dad.
Wait, his sister is his mom,
Yes.
and his dad is also his grandfather?
Yes.
It sounds like the Greek myth of Oedipus. Okay, it's a little messed up. So obviously not a great start to his life. When did he begin becoming this murderer?
They started seeing signs at an extremely young age. When he was 3, he would lay knives around his aunt while she was sleeping, and play with dead animals. And they just caught on with the mood swings and the manic disorder.
Manic? So he had like a depressive manic
Yes.
disorder. Okay. And if I heard you correctly, he would lay knives around his aunt while she was sleeping
Yes.
when he was 3.
3.
So obviously he had the subject of death on the mind
Yes.
when he was very young. Was that something he did when he was a serial killer, like messing around with the bodies of his victims?
Yes.
Ugh.
He
Okay.
would cut off their heads or other body parts, torture them for a little bit.
Ugh, okay. Yeah, this is why we wanted listeners to get the kids away from the radio or from the internet machine, whatever it is you're listening to this on, because this is a pretty heavy topic. So how did he get caught? What happened there?
So he fell in love
Right.
with a girl named Liz. She snitched on him as a joke. She thought it would be funny, and they started catching on to his clues because he would move around a lot, and each city he was in, certain girls would go missing in his age range.
Mm-hmm.
So they put him up for a few trials, and he got away with a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then he fell in love again with another woman, Carol, married her. She tried to convince everybody that he was not guilty of what he did.
Mm-hmm.
So
he kind of convinced her of whatever story he was
Yes.
selling, that he wasn't this horrible person. Probably sounds like a lot of boyfriends of listeners out there. Okay, so he sold Carol this story.
Yes.
But does he still get caught?
yes, his very last day in court, he was just not listening to his lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And what he was telling him to say, he didn't do it. His lawyer walked out in the middle of the court.
I was just wondering, I bet that was a horrible experience for that lawyer.
So Ted Bundy decided to do it himself. He has been in law school, he just didn't finish.
Okay.
So he knew how to do it, he knew how it worked. But when it came down to the votes, he was one away from being not guilty.
Really? It was that close? Okay, wow. Yeah, pro tip out there, if you're ever in court, do not represent yourself.
No.
Even though the Constitution says that you can, not a good idea. So he gets caught. Does he go to prison?
Yes.
And I'm guessing that's where he finishes his life?
Yes.
Okay, well, good news there. Ted Bundy is not still out there wreaking havoc, which is really good news. So let's bring this back to, like, you know, sometimes it's kind of fun. It's like morbidly fun to study things like this, but how can it be valuable for someone to study a serial killer like Ted Bundy? How can it perhaps help them stay safe or keep their loved ones safe?
It can show you the kind of traits to look for in different people. It can tell you certain things to look out for, like the type of cars you see around you or how people change their mood swings about you.
What do you mean by cars, like, around you?
Ted Bundy would stalk certain victims in the middle of the night
Mm-hmm.
and park by their house. So if you see a car that you're not used to or someone who doesn't live in your neighborhood, nobody else knows them, around your house quite a bit, that could be a sign.
So, like, a recurring, maybe there's a vehicle that you see in a bunch of random places around you, and you think, how is this person or this vehicle or whatever, how is it such a coincidence that they're in the same place as I'm in?
Yes.
That is a huge red flag,
Mhm.
obviously. Okay, any other red flags from his behavior?
The mood swings.
So can you talk more about that? What kind of mood swings are we talking about here?
Ted Bundy, when he didn't get what he wanted, he would act manic. He
Mhm.
would go crazy. 1 minute, he would be sweet, caring, and trying to convince you that he is. But as soon as you don't give him what he wants, he changes.
Again, that's something that I bet a lot of people listening to this can say, oh wow, that's my sister, that's my ex-boyfriend, that's my, there's someone in our lives who are like, okay, I know that person. That's concerning. Now, that doesn't mean that every manic depressive person is going to become a serial killer, though, right? Right. So with treatment and medication and counseling, that can be handled. Is there any other, like, really interesting random facts about Ted Bundy that are worth sharing here?
One of his most famous kills, he went to a sorority house, killed 2 girls while they were sleeping. While he was escaping, 2 other girls caught him, but he beat them to death on his way out. So they had no chance, and that was his top kills in one night, 4 girls.
4, wow. Oh, it's just so hideous and so haunting. And so, the takeaway here is ways that we can protect ourselves. Anything specific, since, you are a woman and his victims were all, I'm guessing, all women or mostly women?
All women.
All women. What specifically should female listeners maybe watch out for or take away? Not to villainize or demonize men, but if we're being honest, there is some targeting that happens, especially with rapists. What are some things that maybe women can do to take extra caution?
Keep like an extra, I don't want to say weapon, but just in case, like a taser or pepper spray on you. And if you're going somewhere alone, don't, especially in the middle of the night, or have somebody track you on your phone. Just don't be alone.
So don't go places alone.
Yes.
And bring some kind of protection like pepper spray. You said a taser.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's something that they're comfortable with, do your research on the legality of concealed carry. If that's something that you feel comfortable doing, perhaps having a weapon to protect yourself with. Because you were sharing this with me earlier before the podcast started. What was one of the ways that Ted Bundy would kind of deceive his victims into letting him get close?
He would act like he was disabled or act like he had gotten hurt earlier that day
Mhm.
and pretended like he couldn't lift like a stack of books or sort of object.
Mm-hmm.
So he would ask women to help him lift it in his car. And when he had the chance, he would shove them into his car.
So yeah, he would lure them in with this fake act of being weak.
Yes.
So they would come in feeling compassionate, and then it's a trick. And I feel that in the famous serial killer film, The Silence of the Lambs, there's kind of not a tribute, but more of a reference to that, because the serial killer in that one does the same thing. He pretends to be hurt, he has a cast on his arm, and he's trying to get a sofa into a van, and he lures a victim into the van by doing that. And so, again, it may seem like something out of a movie, but it's good to be on your guard. You don't want to lose all of your compassion, all of your kindness for others, but it's also good to be prepared.
Or he would go the other route and act confident and act like he was the sweetest man in the world, compassionate, and take the girls in his car with them willingly.
Okay, so he just kind of played the
Yes.
smooth act. Yeah, it's just good, ladies and gentlemen, to have some kind of protection out there from people who might try to take advantage of your kindness. We don't want to become a cruel, unfeeling world, but it is also wise to be safe. So, well, Emily, thanks for coming in, and thanks for serving our listeners by just giving them ways that they can protect themselves and take care of their loved ones as well. Thanks for coming on the show.